My name is Tyler Markham. I'm here today on behalf of UT Habitat for Humanity. I have a few things to pass around. The document going around is a petition that we talked with and circulated among UT students. We got approximately 125 signatures, and it's essentially asking that the Planning Commission make a recommendation to Council that follows staff recommendations. In addition, we included a few other things that we would like the Planning Commission to consider. But I want to start off by talking about the mission of Habitat for Humanity. UT Habitat for Humanity is dedicated to ending the cycle of poverty housing, and we deeply believe that everyone deserves a decent and affordable place to live. And we can continue reading down the petition, but we see accessory dwelling units as an additional option for people in Austin. And if you haven't already listened to it, Councilmember Renteria did an excellent interview with Dawson Monitor talking just about accessory dwelling units, wherein he and his wife built a unit so that they could gain additional income from their property. And I think that, like Ming-Chu mentioned earlier, is really the benefit of accessory dwelling units, that they can allow people to capitalize on the increased values of their properties and deal with the property taxes that we all know are becoming a problem for affordability in Austin. So say your property taxes have doubled. The value of the land that your home sits on has significantly increased. You could take out a loan on that, build a accessory dwelling unit, and then rent it out, maybe at market rate, maybe at 80% MFI, and maybe that's not necessarily affordable to someone at 30% MFI, but it does provide an additional stream of income to the property owner. And that's why we believe that UT Habitat for Humanity believes, and all the students that we talk to believe that this is a good option for Austin to pursue, and we strongly urge that the Planning Commission make recommendations to Council in the spirit of the ordinance that Council passed in order to ease regulations on the construction of accessory dwelling units and thereby increase affordability in Austin. Thank you.
Questions? Commissioner Jack, Commissioner Hernandez, and Commissioner Jack.
So when you were talking to people and discussing this particular ordinance, did you talk about specifically what Chair Committee asked Director Guernsey, which is if you have an investor that buys a home and then can build another ADU on the back and short-term rents out both of those, it's actually working the opposite effect. So housing stock is decreased and it's not affordable. So did you guys discuss that as a association or an organization?
We did not really particularly discuss that, but I can say, this has already been said, that that short-term rental units are capped in certain geographical boundaries, and so yes, there's an enforcement issue, but I think we should focus on the enforcement issue instead of focusing on preventing this type of housing.
So 3%, losing 3% of our housing stock, you think is an okay thing?
I don't think we're not necessarily losing it.
Sure we are, because they're displacing people living in houses with people from out of town renting the houses instead. So we are losing 3% of our housing stock with allowing type 2 short-term rentals. And this would allow more if type 2 short-term rentals. This would allow somebody to buy a small bungalow, scrape it off the lot, build it and an accessory unit, and rent them both out for a lot of money, which is what's happening in my neighborhood. And the 3% is actually more like 10% in my neighborhood.
Yes, that's an enforcement issue, and perhaps it's an issue with the short-term rental regulations, but that's also operating under the assumption that all accessory dwelling units will become short-term rental investment properties, which I don't think is the case.
No, they won't all become short-term. They won't all become.
The total
But
amount of housing,
a significant amount of them would in neighborhoods like mine.
then we should enforce that better.
Chair.
So 3% of our housing stock being short-term rentals is okay with you?
That's an issue for the short-term rental regulation, not for the accessory dwelling unit regulation.
Commissioner Jack.
One other question for you in your discussion with the folks that have signed your petition. The scenario that was talked about, an investor buying a house and then using it for short-term rentals, is one of the conditions. But have y'all discussed the fact that when he buys that as an investment property, he pays more than somebody that would pay for that house just to live in it? And then that increased valuation that the TCAD, the Travis County Central Appraisal District, gets because of that sale ripples through the entire neighborhood. So while there's a monetary gain for the individual doing the ADU, the consequences of it is that most of the property owners similarly situated in the areas, property valuations go up. And if we see the same pattern in the past, their property taxes would go up as well. I call it a net sum game, that somebody benefits, but a whole bunch of other people lose out a little bit. Did y'all discuss that?
I would say to that, and this was addressed at a recent panel discussion about ADUs and affordability, that the main driver of increasing home prices is the land underneath them and not the improvements. And
well, yeah, the land becomes much more valuable with increased entitlements. You're right about that.
That's true. But I would say that the land is more, the value of the land is more a function of the fact that we have over 100 people net moving here on average each day.
Do you think any of them are investors looking for a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow?
I'm sure there are. I'm sure some of them are.
Other questions, commissioners? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Eric Goff?